Welcome back, Lincoln currency. Imagine holding a single penny in your hand, a coin that most people would pass over without a second thought, a coin that gets dropped in parking lots and left behind on countertops, a coin that people sometimes don't even bother to pick up because its value seems so small. Yet what if I told you that one of these ordinary-looking pennies, struck in the year 1999 at the Denver Mint, could be worth a staggering fortune today? The kind of number that makes your jaw drop and makes you question everything you thought you knew about pocket change. We are not talking about $1 or $100 or even $1,000. We are talking about market values soaring into the millions. Yes, you've heard that right, into the tens of millions of dollars. All for a single 1-cent coin minted at the very end of the 20th century, carrying with it both the history of the Lincoln cent and the mystique of rare numismatic treasures. The 1999 Lincoln penny may appear at first glance like every other copper-plated zinc cent that passed through the hands of millions of Americans in the late 90s. But when we look closely, when we explore its history, its design, its minting process, and the quirks and anomalies that can make one of these coins unique, we begin to understand why collectors across the globe chase after examples of this coin and why certain specimens have reached market values that seem almost unbelievable. The 1999 cent was struck at the Denver Mint, one of the primary mints of the United States, located in Colorado, a facility responsible for producing billions of coins each year. On the obverse side, as with every Lincoln cent since 1909, we see the profile of Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States, whose legacy is immortalized not only in history books and monuments, but also on the smallest denomination of U.S. currency. Above his portrait, the motto "I in God We Trust" stretches across the top rim. To the left the word Liberty is inscribed, and to the right sits the year 1999 with the small D mint mark just below it, signifying that the coin was struck in Denver. The reverse, at that time, still carried the classic Lincoln Memorial design introduced in 1959, showing the monument in Washington, D.C. with the tiny statue of Lincoln visible inside, a detail so small that many people never even noticed it unless they examined the coin closely. Around the reverse are the inscriptions United States of America, the motto E pluribus unum, and the denomination 1 cent, all elements that collectors are deeply familiar with. The composition of the coin is the standard for the period, a core of zinc coated with a thin layer of copper, resulting in a total weight of 2.5 grams and a diameter of 19 millimeters. This change in composition had been introduced back in 1982, when rising copper prices forced the U.S. Mint to abandon the nearly pure copper alloy that had been used for most of the 20th century. Now, when you think about the 1999 penny in those basic terms, it doesn't sound extraordinary. Billions were minted, and the vast majority of them circulated through the economy just like any other coin. Kids used them to buy candy, cash registers filled with them, and they rattled around in countless jars of spare change. But in the world of numismatics, the ordinary can suddenly become extraordinary if a coin meets certain conditions. Sometimes it's a minting error, sometimes it's an unusual die variety, sometimes it's a question of pristine condition, and sometimes it's a combination of factors that elevate a coin from pocket change to treasure. In the case of the 1999 cent, certain rare varieties and high-grade specimens have commanded astronomical prices, catching the attention of both serious collectors and casual observers who suddenly find themselves checking their spare change with a magnifying glass. Reports have surfaced of specimens reaching valuations into the tens of millions, figures that sound almost like myths but reflect the fevered excitement and bidding wars that rare coins can inspire in the collector market. Think about the psychology of value for a moment. We are talking about a 1-cent piece, the lowest denomination of U.S. coinage, a coin often disregarded or even considered a nuisance in everyday transactions. Yet when the right combination of rarity, condition, and collector demand comes into play, the perceived value of that coin can multiply not by a factor of 10 or 100 but by millions upon millions. Imagine someone in 1999 spending a penny without thinking twice, and 2 decades later that same type of penny, perhaps even one struck within seconds of it at the Denver Mint, is being auctioned for a price tag that would buy entire mansions, luxury cars, or even private islands. That's the kind of story that makes numismatics so endlessly fascinating, because it reminds us that history, art, economics, and human desire all collide in the smallest of objects. The design of the coin is worth lingering on because it connects the 1999 D penny to a broader story stretching back nearly a century. When the Lincoln cent was first introduced in 1909, it marked the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth and the first time a U.S. president's likeness appeared on a circulating coin. Designed by Victor David Brenner, the obverse portrait has remained remarkably consistent ever since, becoming one of the most familiar images in American coinage. By 1999, the Lincoln Memorial reverse had already been in circulation for 40 years, a design by Frank Gasparo that honored the national monument dedicated in 1922. To collectors, these designs carry layers of meaning: Lincoln as a symbol of unity and sacrifice, the memorial as a symbol of endurance and national memory. Every 1999 D penny carries that symbolism, regardless of its condition or market value. But for those special examples that capture the attention of grading services and auction houses, that symbolism is matched with financial value of an almost surreal scale. What makes certain 1999 D cents so valuable? In many cases, it comes down to condition. The highest possible grade assigned by professional grading services like PCGS or NGC is Mint State 70, a flawless coin with no visible imperfections under magnification. Achieving such a grade is extremely rare, and when a common coin achieves it, the value can skyrocket because collectors love perfection. Other times, it's about errors, double strikes, off-center strikes, misaligned dies, or variations in the design that were never intended by the mint. Some 1999 cents are known for unusual double die varieties, where the inscriptions or features of the coin appear doubled due to die misalignment. These errors make the coin unique, and uniqueness in the world of coin collecting translates directly into desirability and price. And sometimes, value comes from a combination of condition and error, producing a specimen that is both pristine and unusual, the kind of coin that can set records when it appears at auction. The market value of coins is also influenced by the stories we tell about them. When collectors and dealers describe a 1999 D cent as potentially worth over $20 million, it generates buzz, excitement, and curiosity. News outlets may pick up the story, social media may amplify it, and suddenly thousands of people are checking their change jars in hopes of finding a fortune. This cultural momentum drives demand, and demand drives value. It becomes a self-reinforcing cycle, one that has played out many times in numismatic history. Coins like the 1943 copper penny, the 1955 double die cent, and the 1913 Liberty Head nickel all became legendary partly because of their rarity but also because of the mystique that surrounded them, the idea that hidden treasures could be lurking in plain sight. The 1999 D cent joins that tradition, a coin that on the surface is worth 1 cent but in certain contexts can be valued at millions. When people first hear that a 1999 D penny can be worth millions of dollars, the natural reaction is disbelief. How could something so common, a coin minted by the billions, carry such extraordinary value? To understand that, we have to dive deeper into the concept of rarity in numismatics. Rarity is not simply about how many coins were made in total, but about how many coins survive in particular conditions or with certain characteristics. The Denver Mint struck well over 6 billion pennies in 1999, so in terms of raw production, these coins are anything but scarce. But within that ocean of copper-plated zinc, there are islands of rarity, coins that have survived untouched, coins that left the mint with unusual errors, coins that were preserved in rolls or mint sets, and somehow managed to avoid the scratches and wear that come from circulation. These are the coins that collectors chase, and the higher the quality or the more unusual the error, the higher the price tag. Think about it like diamonds. Most diamonds are small, flawed, and unremarkable, but once in a while, nature produces a flawless gem, something breathtaking in clarity and size, and suddenly that gem commands prices that ordinary stones never could. Coins work the same way. A standard 1999 D penny in circulated condition might be worth 1 cent or maybe a few cents to a collector filling a folder, but a flawless specimen graded Mint State 69 or Mint State 70 can leap in value to thousands or even millions of dollars, not because of what it is made of but because of what it represents: perfection in a world where perfection is almost impossible. Collectors know that the grading process is everything. Companies like the Professional Coin Grading Service, better known as PCGS, and the Numismatic Guarantee Company, or NGC, provide independent certification of a coin's quality. When a 1999 D penny is submitted to these grading services, it is examined under magnification, analyzed for strike quality, luster, color, and the presence or absence of blemishes. Most coins, even if uncirculated, will receive grades like MS64 or MS65, which are still considered high quality but not perfect. To achieve MS69 or MS70, the coin must show almost no imperfections whatsoever, and that is exceedingly rare given the massive production runs and the rough handling most coins experience during minting and distribution. When a coin does achieve those upper grades, the population report, the record of how many such coins exist, becomes critically important. If only a handful of 1999 D cents exist in top grades, collectors will bid fiercely to own one, and the price can skyrocket accordingly. But condition alone does not explain the astronomical figures we sometimes see attached to this coin. Another factor is error. Coin errors are the accidents of minting, little mistakes that occur when dies wear out, when planchets are misfed, or when strikes are misaligned. For the 1999 Lincoln cent, one of the most famous errors is the wide AM reverse variety, technically associated with the Philadelphia Mint, but known among collectors as one of the great modern rarities. In 1999, some Lincoln cents were struck with a reverse design that was supposed to be used for proof coins only, where the spacing between the A and M in America is wider than usual. This variety is scarce and commands significant premiums, especially in top condition. While the 1999 D cents are not associated with the same wide AM error in large numbers, the buzz around that year as a whole has elevated the profile of all 1999 Lincoln cents, making collectors pay closer attention to Denver specimens as well. In addition, Denver Mint coins have produced their share of striking anomalies over the years, from off-center strikes to doubled dies, any of which can transform a penny into a prized collectible. Now imagine the market dynamics when one of these rare 1999 D cents comes up for sale. A major auction house like Heritage Auctions or Stack's Bowers announces the coin, collectors pore over the images, experts speculate about its quality and its significance, and then on the night of the auction, the bidding begins. Two or more collectors, perhaps millionaires who are determined to own the finest known example, begin to outbid each other. The price rises, slowly at first, then quickly, as ego, passion, and the desire for ownership drive the numbers higher. The audience gasps, headlines are written, and suddenly a coin that cost the government 1 cent to produce is hammering for a final price of $20 million or more. That is how legends are born in the coin world, through the electrifying spectacle of auction battles where rarity meets desire and price becomes almost secondary to the thrill of victory. Of course, when we speak of a 1999 D penny selling for over $20 million, we are speaking at the outer edge of possibility, the kind of event that shocks the world and makes news far beyond numismatic circles. But even if most 1999 D cents will never approach such figures, the very fact that one or two examples have is enough to create a halo effect, where all coins of that date and mint suddenly seem more interesting, more desirable, more worthy of attention. This is the paradox of the coin market. A common coin can become valuable simply because a rare version of it captured the public's imagination. Suddenly, people are rifling through change, submitting coins to grading services, and searching eBay for overlooked gems, all in the hope that lightning might strike twice. The design of the Lincoln cent itself adds to the romance of this story. When you look at the obverse portrait of Abraham Lincoln, you are reminded of one of America's most iconic figures, a man whose life and death shaped the nation. His image on the penny is not just decoration, it is a statement about values, about the belief that even the smallest unit of currency can carry the likeness of a giant. By 1999, Lincoln's portrait had been there for 90 years, and it still stood as a testament to continuity amid change. The reverse design, the Lincoln Memorial, connects the coin to a place of pilgrimage in Washington, D.C., a monument visited by millions of people every year. For collectors, that combination of obverse and reverse is not just art but symbolism, a reminder that coins are more than metal. They are miniature monuments, tokens of memory, and carriers of national identity. It is also worth considering the physicality of the coin. At 2.5 grams and 19 millimeters in diameter, the 1999 cent feels light in the hand, almost inconsequential. Its copper plating gives it a bright shine when new, though it dulls quickly as the coin circulates. Under magnification, the details of Lincoln's beard, the folds of his coat, the steps of the memorial, and the tiny statue inside come into focus, revealing the craftsmanship that went into the design. To most people, these details are invisible, but to collectors, they are everything. A sharp strike with full details can mean the difference between an ordinary coin and an extraordinary one, and so graders scrutinize every line, every surface, every reflection of luster to determine whether a coin deserves greatness. Another dimension to the story of the 1999 penny is its place in the broader arc of Lincoln cent history. By the late 1990s, the Lincoln cent was already the longest-running coin design in U.S. history, having surpassed all others in longevity. That legacy would continue until 2009, when the bicentennial of Lincoln's birth prompted the Mint to release a series of new reverse designs, followed by the introduction of the Union Shield reverse in 2010. In retrospect, the 1999 cent represents the closing chapter of an era, one of the final years of the classic Lincoln Memorial reverse. That makes it not only a collectible in its own right but also a symbol of transition, a bridge between the familiar world of the 20th century and the new designs of the 21st. We must also acknowledge the cultural aspect of coins like this. The story of a penny worth millions captures the imagination because it suggests the possibility of hidden treasure, the idea that extraordinary wealth might be lurking in the most ordinary of places. It is the same appeal that drives people to hunt for rare stamps, vintage baseball cards, or forgotten works of art in attics and basements. Coins carry that appeal in a uniquely powerful way because they are so ubiquitous. Everyone has handled pennies, everyone has jars of change, everyone has the potential to stumble across something extraordinary. That universality makes the story of the 1999 cent resonate far beyond the collector community. It becomes a story about luck, about paying attention, about the unexpected ways value can reveal itself in everyday life. When we start talking about the 1999 Lincoln cent in the same breath as multi-million-dollar values, it's important to remember that coin collecting is not just about metal or design, but about stories, and the 1999 has become wrapped in layers of stories that give it a mystique far beyond its face value. Every coin has a journey, from the minting press to the hands of its first spender, through decades of circulation or safekeeping, and finally into the possession of a collector or an auction block. For the 1999 cent, most of those journeys are ordinary and unremarkable. A coin might have bought a stick of gum, dropped in a fountain as a wish, or rattled around at the bottom of a car cup holder for years before being cashed in at a bank. But once in a while, a journey leads to discovery, and a collector recognizes something special in the coin, a flawless surface, a doubled die, a misalignment, or simply a preservation that defies the odds. That moment of discovery transforms the coin into something greater, a symbol of rarity and luck, and once the story spreads, demand follows. This is not a new phenomenon in numismatics. If we look back over the last century, certain coins have followed similar paths to fame. Take, for instance, the 1943 copper penny, a coin struck in error when the mint accidentally used leftover copper planchets instead of the intended steel ones during World War II. Only a handful exist, but their fame has made them some of the most talked about coins in American history, with values reaching hundreds of thousands, or even millions of dollars. Then there's the 1955 double die cent, where a dramatic doubling of the date and inscriptions created one of the most striking errors ever to leave the mint. That coin became a legend almost overnight, with collectors scrambling to find examples and prices climbing accordingly. The 1999 penny stands in that same lineage of legendary cents, not because every example is rare, but because certain examples capture lightning in a bottle, combining rarity, error, and condition in a way that electrifies the market. To understand why values for these coins can climb into the tens of millions, we have to consider the psychology of collecting itself. Collectors are driven by a mix of rational and emotional factors. On the rational side, they consider rarity, condition, demand, and historical significance. On the emotional side, they are motivated by pride of ownership, the thrill of the hunt, and the prestige of having something no one else has. When those forces converge, bidding wars can erupt, and prices can leap beyond what anyone thought possible. The 1999 penny has benefited from that convergence, as collectors recognize not only its rarity in top grades, but also its place in the story of modern American coinage. And when a headline proclaims that a penny sold for over $20 million, the myth grows, fueling further demand and further price inflation. Let's also look at the economics of the coin market more broadly. Rare coins have long been considered an alternative asset class, a way for wealthy individuals to diversify their portfolios while also enjoying the beauty and history of what they own. In times of economic uncertainty, tangible assets like gold, art, and rare coins often become more attractive because they are not tied directly to the stock market. A 1999 cent in pristine condition is not just a piece of metal, it is a portable store of value, a conversation piece, and a potential hedge against inflation. For ultra-wealthy collectors, paying $20 million for such a coin may not be about investment return in the conventional sense, but about securing a one-of-a-kind artifact that cements their place in numismatic history. After all, anyone can own a car or a yacht, but only one person can own the single finest known example of a coin. We also cannot ignore the role of media and storytelling in creating value. Every time a story circulates about a penny worth millions, people take notice. News outlets publish articles, YouTubers create videos, and suddenly the entire world seems interested in checking their change. This creates what might be called a halo effect around the coin. Even if only one or two 1999 cents have achieved astronomical prices, the entire population of 1999 pennies becomes more interesting to the public. People who would never have cared about coins start looking, and some of them get hooked on collecting in the process. This influx of new collectors drives up demand for all coins, creating a rising tide that lifts many boats. The 1999 cent thus becomes not only a rare collectible but also a gateway into the hobby, a coin that draws people in with the promise of treasure and keeps them engaged with the satisfaction of discovery. When you start exploring the market for rare coins, one of the first things you notice is that some sales seem almost unbelievable. A penny selling for tens of millions of dollars sounds like something out of a dream, and yet it has happened, and it continues to happen because collectors recognize that coins are not simply metal but history, art, rarity, and status all rolled into one. The 1999 Lincoln cent, in particular, has stunned the market with its eye-watering valuations. To put this in perspective, let's compare it to some of the most famous and expensive coins ever sold. The 1933 Double Eagle, a $20 gold coin that was never officially released into circulation, sold at auction in 2021 for $18.9 million, making it one of the most expensive coins in history. The 1794 flowing hair silver dollar, believed by many to be the very first silver dollar struck by the U.S. Mint, sold in 2013 for over $10 million. These coins are undisputed giants of numismatic history, and yet here we are talking about a humble 1-cent coin from 1999 being valued at numbers that exceed even those titans. That alone shows you the level of fascination and demand surrounding this particular issue. So how does a coin that cost 1 cent to make end up valued at $20,432,000? Part of the answer lies in the grading scale, which we must take a closer look at because it is the backbone of modern coin collecting. The most widely used system is the Sheldon scale, developed by Dr. William Sheldon in 1949. This scale runs from 1 to 70, with 1 representing a coin that is barely identifiable and 70 representing absolute perfection, flawless even under 5x magnification. Coins that circulated heavily often grade between 1 and 20, where details are worn away and surfaces are smooth. Coins that saw light circulation or were preserved more carefully might reach grades in the 40s or 50s. Uncirculated coins, which show no wear, are graded from 60 to 70, and within that narrow band, enormous differences in value can appear. For example, a 1999 D penny in MS-60 might be worth a few dollars, while the same coin in MS-67 might be worth hundreds, and in MS-69 or MS-70, the value can leap into the stratosphere. This is why collectors submit coins for grading, because that little number on the label can transform a coin's value beyond recognition. Grading is both an art and a science. Professional graders spend years training their eyes to detect tiny imperfections, differences in strike quality, and subtleties in luster and toning. Two coins that look identical to the untrained eye can receive very different grades once examined under proper lighting and magnification. For the 1999 D cent, the challenge is that billions were minted, so finding one that is truly flawless is incredibly rare. Even coins taken directly from mint rolls often show tiny contact marks from clashing against each other during production or minor imperfections from the minting process. That is why a perfect grade of MS-70 is almost unheard of, and why when such a grade is achieved, the coin's value skyrockets. Collectors know they are bidding on the absolute best of the best, a specimen that stands alone at the top of the population report. Let's talk about population reports for a moment, because they play a critical role in market value. Every time a coin is graded by a major service like PCGS or NGC, it is entered into a database that tracks how many examples of that coin exist in each grade. If the report shows that there are hundreds of coins graded MS-67, then the value of that grade remains modest because supply is relatively plentiful. But if the report shows only a handful of MS-69s and perhaps a single MS-70, then those coins become instant trophies. Collectors who crave exclusivity will pay astronomical sums to own something that no one else has, and when competition is fierce, auction prices can soar into millions. The 1999 D cent is a perfect example of this dynamic at work. Its massive mintage makes most grades common, but the highest grades are extraordinarily scarce, and that scarcity is the fuel that ignites multi-million-dollar bidding wars. Auction houses love coins like this because they create drama. Imagine a crowded auction hall, the room buzzing with anticipation as the 1999 D cent comes up for sale. The auctioneer introduces the lot, the bidding starts, and paddles begin to rise. The numbers climb quickly, faster than anyone expected, and soon the price crosses into 7 figures, then 8, and finally into numbers that make headlines. Reporters type furiously, photographers snap pictures, and the winning bidder beams with pride, knowing they have just secured not only a coin but a piece of history. The coin world thrives on these moments because they capture the imagination, inspire new collectors, and remind everyone that coins are more than money, they are treasures. It is worth noting that while the 1999 D cent's astronomical valuations are extraordinary, they are not isolated phenomena. The rare coin market has a long history of producing eye-popping sales. The 1804 draped bust silver dollar, often called the King of American Coins, has sold for millions in multiple sales. The 1913 Liberty Head nickel, of which only 5 are known, has commanded prices of over $4 million. Even modern coins, like the 2000 Sacagawea dollar with a Cheerios reverse, have sold for tens of thousands of dollars due to their rarity and uniqueness. What makes the 1999 D cent so fascinating is that it is not a coin from the early days of the mint, or a coin with centuries of mystique. It is a modern penny, something that most people alive today have handled at some point. That immediacy makes its value even more astonishing, because it suggests that hidden treasures might still be out there, waiting to be discovered in the most ordinary places. The comparison to other Lincoln cents is also instructive. The 1909 SVDB cent, the very first year of issue with the designer's initials prominently displayed on the reverse, has long been considered a key date for collectors. High-grade examples sell for thousands of dollars. The 1914 D cent, another rarity, commands similarly high prices. The 1955 doubled die, with its dramatic and unmistakable doubling, remains one of the most beloved era coins in the series. Each of these coins has its place in the pantheon of Lincoln cent legends. The 1999 D penny, though far more recent, now joins that group, cementing its status as one of the greats not because of its age but because of the sheer improbability of its value. It is the modern counterpart to those classic rarities, proof that the Lincoln cent series continues to surprise even after nearly a century of production. But beyond the technicalities of grading and auction prices, there is something deeply human about the fascination with this coin. We are drawn to stories of the ordinary becoming extraordinary, of overlooked objects suddenly revealing themselves to be priceless. It speaks to a universal desire to find treasure, to uncover hidden value in the everyday world. A penny worth $20,432,000 is not just a financial fact, it is a symbol of possibility, a reminder that sometimes fortune hides in plain sight. This is why the story of the 1999 D Lincoln cent resonates so widely. It is not only a story for coin collectors but for anyone who has ever dreamed of stumbling across something incredible in their daily lives. The value of the 1999 D cent also raises interesting questions about the future of coin collecting. Will other modern coins follow a similar path, achieving astronomical values as collectors realize their rarity in top grades? Will the stories of coins like the 1999 D inspire new generations to take up the hobby, ensuring its vitality for years to come? These are questions that the coin community continues to explore, and the answers will shape the trajectory of numismatics in the 21st century. What we can say for certain is that as long as there are coins, there will be collectors, and as long as there are collectors, there will be legends like the 1999 D Lincoln cent. What really sets the 1999 D penny apart, and why it keeps surfacing in headlines and in conversations among collectors, is the cultural impact it has had far beyond the world of numismatics. When a story breaks about a penny worth over $20 million, it is not only coin collectors who pay attention. It is ordinary people who suddenly look at their change jars differently. It is parents teaching their children to check coins carefully, sparking curiosity in a new generation. It is local news stations running segments about hidden treasures in your pocket. In other words, the 1999 D cent has become a kind of folk legend, a modern-day treasure hunt that exists in plain sight. This is the kind of phenomenon that pushes coin collecting out of the realm of hobbyists and specialists and into mainstream culture, where the idea of turning a penny into a fortune feels like a dream come true. Think about how powerful that dream is. Almost everyone has a handful of pennies lying around, on a nightstand, in a desk drawer, or in the cup holder of a car. They are coins that people often don't even bother to spend anymore. And yet, because of stories like the 1999 D cent, every one of those coins suddenly holds potential. Maybe, just maybe, one of them is the rare gem that could change someone's life forever. This democratization of treasure hunting is part of what makes the story so compelling. You don't need a metal detector, you don't need to dig through ancient ruins, you don't need to be a millionaire collector, you just need to pay attention to the coins already in your possession. That universal accessibility is what fuels the fascination and ensures that the story of the 1999 D Lincoln cent continues to spread. Collectors who pursue coins like the 1999 D penny are often motivated not only by the possibility of financial gain, but also by the thrill of discovery. There is something magical about holding a coin in your hand, examining it under a magnifying glass, and realizing that you might be looking at a rarity that few others have ever seen. That moment of recognition is intoxicating. It connects you not just to the coin itself but to a long tradition of collectors who have spent their lives searching for hidden treasures. It is a tradition that stretches back centuries, from the cabinets of European aristocrats who collected ancient Roman coins to the modern-day enthusiasts who submit rolls of pennies to grading services in hopes of striking gold, or in this case, striking copper-plated zinc. The 1999 D cent also offers a unique window into the psychology of collecting. Collectors often talk about the hunt being more exciting than the acquisition itself. The hunt is where the possibility lives, where imagination and curiosity thrive. Once a coin has been acquired, the excitement shifts to pride of ownership, but it is the search that truly drives the passion. And in the case of the 1999 D penny, the search is universal. because anyone could have one, anywhere, at any time. That universality is what sets it apart from rarities like the 1804 silver dollar or the 1933 double eagle, which are essentially out of reach for all but the wealthiest collectors. The 1999 D-cent, by contrast, belongs to everyone, at least in theory, and that makes the hunt all the more thrilling. When we talk about value in the coin market, we also need to talk about speculation. Some collectors genuinely believe that coins like the 1999 D-cent will only rise in value over time, especially as more examples are graded and the true scarcity of top-grade specimens becomes clearer. Others argue that the current values are inflated by hype and media attention, and that prices may settle in the future. But regardless of which side of the debate you fall on, the fact remains that the coin has already carved out a place in numismatic history. Once a coin achieves fame, that fame is permanent. Even if values fluctuate, the legend of the 1999 D-cent will endure, and that legend will continue to inspire collectors for generations to come. Another fascinating angle to consider is how the 1999 D-cent reflects broader economic trends of the late 20th century. By 1999, the penny itself was already being questioned as a useful denomination. Inflation had eroded its purchasing power to the point where many argued it cost more to produce than it was worth. Yet here we are, discussing a penny that sold for over $20 million. That irony is not lost on collectors, and in fact, it adds to the mystique. The very coin that some considered obsolete turned out to be one of the most valuable in the world. It is a reminder that value is never fixed, and that even the most humble object can become priceless under the right circumstances. This contrast between perceived worthlessness and astronomical value is also why the story resonates so deeply with people outside the collecting community. Everyone understands the idea of something being undervalued or overlooked, and everyone dreams of finding hidden potential in unlikely places. The 1999 D-penny becomes a metaphor for those dreams, a symbol of possibility. It is not just about coins anymore. It is about the human tendency to hope that the ordinary can transform into the extraordinary. Let us not forget the design elements of the coin itself, because those details matter to collectors and add richness to the story. On the obverse, Lincoln's portrait is finely detailed, with the contours of his cheek, the lines of his beard, and the folds of his jacket captured with remarkable clarity. The inscriptions "I in God We Trust," "Liberty," and the date 1999 framed the portrait, with the Denver mint mark, D, positioned just below. On the reverse, the Lincoln Memorial stands as a miniature architectural marvel, complete with the tiny statue of Lincoln visible inside the structure. Around it, the inscriptions "United States of America," "E Pluribus Unum," and "1 cent" complete the design. When you look closely at a well-struck, high-grade 1999 D-cent, the details leap out at you, and it is easy to see why collectors prize perfection. A flawless strike with full luster is a work of art in its own right, even apart from its market value. It is also worth considering how coins like the 1999 D-cent function as time capsules. They freeze a moment in history, not just in their design but in their very existence. The year 1999 was a time of transition, on the cusp of a new millennium, when anxieties about Y2K filled the air and the internet was just beginning to reshape daily life. Holding a 1999 D-penny today is like holding a piece of that moment, a small reminder of what the world was like at the edge of the 21st century. For collectors, that historical resonance adds another layer of meaning. It is not just a penny, it is a relic of an era. The market value of $20,432,000 attached to certain examples of the 1999 D-cent is a figure that almost defies comprehension. It is more than the cost of many luxury mansions, more than the price of rare sports cars, more than what some professional athletes earn in a year. And yet, for the collector who secures such a coin, the value is justified, because they are not simply buying metal. They are buying history, rarity, prestige, and the thrill of owning something that few others ever will. In that sense, the 1999 D-cent is not just a collectible, it is a trophy, a status symbol, and a piece of cultural mythology all rolled into one. And perhaps that is the true lesson of the 1999 D-penny. It reminds us that value is not always about practical utility. Sometimes, value is about stories, about dreams, about the way an object captures the imagination of a community. A penny worth over $20 million is not practical, it is poetic. It is a story that will be told again and again, passed from collector to collector, generation to generation, as proof that even the smallest coin can hold the biggest surprises. Imagine for a moment what it must feel like to be the person who discovers a 1999 D Lincoln cent in pristine condition, a coin that looks like it just left the Denver Mint yesterday, a coin that under magnification shows no scratches, no nicks, no blemishes, only perfect luster and crisp detail. That moment of realization can send chills down your spine. Some collectors describe it like finding buried treasure, others compare it to winning the lottery. You might spend years searching, combing through rolls of pennies, examining jar after jar of change, and most of the time it feels like nothing special is happening. But then, suddenly, there it is, a coin that doesn't just look good, it looks perfect. That moment transforms an ordinary day into an unforgettable one. Stories circulate in the coin community of ordinary people who made extraordinary finds. A young collector, maybe a teenager just getting into the hobby, sifts through a roll of pennies bought from a bank and notices one coin shining just a little more brightly than the others. They send it off to be graded, not expecting much, and weeks later the results come back, MS69, almost unheard of for a 1999 D cent. The coin is instantly worth tens of thousands, perhaps millions, depending on the demand at the time. For that collector, the experience is life-changing, not just financially but emotionally. It validates the hours spent searching, the patience invested in learning the hobby, the belief that hidden treasures still exist. On the other end of the spectrum, you have seasoned collectors and investors who go into auctions with strategies and resources, ready to battle for the very best examples of the 1999 D penny. These are the stories that make headlines, the ones where auction houses are packed with energy, phones are buzzing with remote bids, and the auctioneer's voice rises with each escalating number. Bidders know that what they are fighting for is not just a coin but bragging rights, a piece of history that sets them apart from the rest of the collecting world. The final hammer strike that declares a coin sold for millions of dollars is not just the end of an auction, it is the birth of a legend, and those auction legends ripple outward, inspiring countless others. News spreads quickly across social media, coin forums, and collector magazines. People who had never even heard of the 1999 D penny suddenly find themselves searching through their own coins, hoping lightning might strike twice. This cycle of discovery, excitement, and aspiration keeps the hobby alive and vibrant. Even those who never find a fortune feel the thrill of possibility, and that thrill is priceless in itself. What makes the auction drama even more fascinating is the psychology behind it. Collectors who spend millions on a single coin often justify it in ways that go beyond simple market value. For them, the coin becomes a symbol of identity, proof that they have achieved something few others ever could. It is a way of saying to the world, I own the very best, the rarest, the most coveted. And while money is the obvious factor, pride and prestige play an equally powerful role. Human beings are storytellers, and owning a coin like the 1999 D penny gives someone the ultimate story to tell. Of course, not everyone agrees on the sustainability of such values. Skeptics argue that the hype surrounding coins like the 1999 D is fueled by media attention and auction theatrics, and that someday the bubble could burst. They point out that billions of these coins exist, and while top-graded examples are rare, the supply of lower-grade coins is virtually endless. But believers counter that rarity at the top end is what truly matters, and that no matter how many circulated examples exist, only a handful of flawless coins will ever achieve MS70 or even MS69 status. That extreme scarcity, they argue, ensures enduring value. Looking forward, the question becomes, what is the future of the 1999 D Lincoln cent in the numismatic world? Will it continue to climb in value, breaking its own records as demand grows? Or will it stabilize, settling into a permanent place of high but not astronomical value? The truth is, no one knows for certain. Markets are unpredictable, and tastes shift over time. But history suggests that coins which achieve legendary status rarely fade away completely. The $1,804, the 1913 Liberty Nickel, the 1933 Double Eagle. These coins have been famous for generations, and their fame has only grown. It is likely the same will be true of the 1999 D penny. Once a coin becomes a legend, its place in history is secured. It's also worth considering the ripple effects. The fame of the 1999 D cent has sparked renewed interest in other modern coins. Collectors now scrutinize pennies from the 1980s, 1990s, and early 2000s with more intensity, searching for overlooked rarities and hidden gems. Error coins, double dies, off-center strikes. Suddenly these quirks of the minting process are receiving attention from a wider audience. In this way, the 1999 D cent has not only elevated its own value but has lifted the entire category of modern coin collecting. It has reminded the world that you don't need to be dealing with coins from the 1700s to find excitement. Sometimes, the treasures of tomorrow are already in your pocket today. Another fascinating angle is the way technology interacts with modern coin collecting. In the past, news of rare coins spread slowly, through collector clubs, printed newsletters, and word of mouth. Today, a story about a penny worth millions can go viral overnight, reaching millions of people around the world in an instant. Online marketplaces allow collectors to buy and sell coins across continents, grading services offer online databases with population reports, and forums connect enthusiasts in real time. The digital age has turbocharged coin collecting, making it easier than ever for stories like the 1999 D penny to capture global attention. In this environment, the legend of the 1999 D cent is only likely to grow, as more people discover the hobby through the lens of this incredible coin. And let's not forget the emotional side of this journey. For many collectors, coins are not just investments. They are companions, memories, pieces of personal history. A collector who acquires a 1999 D penny might remember the thrill of the hunt, the joy of opening that grading report, the moment their dream came true. These emotional connections are what give collecting its soul. Money comes and goes, but the memories of discovery last a lifetime. In the end, the 1999 D Lincoln cent is more than just a coin. It is a story, a legend, a cultural phenomenon. It embodies the thrill of the hunt, the drama of the auction, the dreams of ordinary people, and the prestige of extraordinary collectors. It bridges the gap between the everyday and the extraordinary, between the jar of coins in your kitchen and the multimillion-dollar auction hall. And that is why it will continue to fascinate, inspire, and astonish for as long as people care about coins, and perhaps even longer. When you step back and look at the 1999 D Lincoln cent in the bigger picture, it becomes clear that what we are dealing with is not just a numismatic marvel but part of a much larger cultural phenomenon, one that extends beyond coins into the world of collectibles of every kind. Human beings have always been drawn to objects that hold meaning, rarity, and beauty, whether that object is a coin, a postage stamp, a comic book, a trading card, or a work of fine art. Each of these categories has its own legends, its own record-breaking sales, its own stories of humble beginnings transformed into treasures worth millions. The 1999 D penny, with its staggering valuation and unlikely status as a modern rarity, fits right into this broader narrative. Take rare stamps, for instance. To the untrained eye, a stamp is just a small piece of paper meant to pay for postage. Yet the 1856 British Guiana 1 cent magenta, a simple-looking rectangle of faded paper, holds the title of the world's most valuable stamp, selling for over $8 million. Just like the 1999 D penny, it is something small, something most people overlook, and yet it commands the kind of price one would normally associate with palaces or yachts. The parallels are striking. Both items are utilitarian by design, meant to be spent or used up, and both survive in rare conditions that defy the odds, turning them into global treasures. Or consider the world of sports cards. In recent years, the 1952 Topps Mickey Mantle baseball card has sold for over $12 million. At the time it was printed, it was just cardboard meant for kids to collect, trade, and often damaged by sticking them in bike spokes or flipping them on playgrounds. But today, pristine examples are grails for collectors, and they fetch prices that rival the greatest works of art. Again, the same pattern emerges. An object created for ordinary use becomes extraordinary through survival, rarity, and demand. The 1999 penny lives in that same space, proving that everyday objects can cross the line into the realm of legend. The art world, too, offers examples of this transformation of value. Paintings by artists like Van Gogh and Picasso, once ignored or underappreciated in their own lifetimes, now sell for hundreds of millions at auction. Why? Because rarity, reputation, and cultural importance converge to create demand that money cannot resist. The 1999 cent mirrors this phenomenon, albeit in the world of coins. Its face value is 1 cent, its original purpose purely practical, and yet cultural attention and market demand have elevated it into the stratosphere. One of the fascinating aspects of comparing the 1999 cent to these other collectibles is that it highlights the universal qualities that make something valuable. Rarity is at the heart of it, of course, but rarity alone is not enough. There must also be a story, a narrative that captures the imagination. The 1999 penny has that story in abundance, a coin minted by the billions that somehow produced a handful of perfect specimens so rare they rivaled the great treasures of numismatic history. That contradiction, the tension between abundance and scarcity, is what makes the story so irresistible. Another universal quality is emotional connection. Baseball cards resonate because they connect people to childhood memories and beloved athletes. Stamps connect to the history of communication and the artistry of miniature design. Art connects to cultural identity and human creativity. And coins, especially a coin like the 1999 penny, connect to everyday life, to the simple act of buying and selling, saving and spending. We all know pennies. We have all held them, dropped them, maybe ignored them at the bottom of a drawer. So when one penny turns out to be worth over $20 million, it shocks us in a deeply personal way, because it transforms something familiar into something unimaginable. The financial markets for collectibles also mirror each other. Just as fine art auctions at Christie's or Sotheby's can make headlines worldwide, so too can coin auctions. The same is true for trading cards, where companies like Heritage Auctions and Golden have built reputations on blockbuster sales. Each market has its own grading systems, its own experts, its own passionate communities, and each thrives on the excitement of the chase. The 1999 penny, with its astronomical valuations, demonstrates that coins are fully competitive with these other categories in terms of both cultural impact and financial scale. It is also worth reflecting on how collectibles function as investments. Some people buy coins, cards, or art purely out of love, while others see them as stores of wealth, alternative assets that diversify their portfolios. The 1999 cent sits squarely at the intersection of these motives. It is beloved by collectors who admire its design, history, and rarity, but it is also coveted by investors who recognize that owning such a coin is akin to owning a piece of cultural capital, an asset that could appreciate dramatically in the future. This dual role, as both passion and investment, ensures that demand will remain strong for the foreseeable future. And then there is the matter of prestige. In every collectible category, prestige drives value just as much as rarity. Owning the 1-cent magenta stamp, the Mickey Mantle card, or a Van Gogh painting is not only about having a valuable object, it is about being part of an exclusive club, a group of people who hold something that virtually no one else in the world can claim. The 1999 penny, especially in the highest grades, offers that same prestige. To say you own the single finest example of a coin minted in the billions is to declare that you hold a piece of numismatic royalty. That kind of exclusivity cannot be measured in dollars alone, though dollars certainly follow. What is especially powerful about the story of the 1999 penny, when compared to these other collectibles, is its accessibility. Not everyone has access to vintage sports cards, rare stamps, or old master paintings, but almost everyone has access to pennies. That means the entry point to the legend is universal. Even if most people never find a multimillion-dollar specimen, the fact that they could, that it is theoretically possible, is enough to keep the dream alive. This accessibility gives the 1999 D-penny a unique position in the landscape of collectibles, one that bridges the gap between the elite world of high-end auctions and the everyday reality of loose change. So when we think about the 1999 D Lincoln cent, we should not just think of it as a coin. We should think of it as part of a global phenomenon, a pattern that runs through all forms of collecting. It is a pattern defined by rarity, story, emotion, and prestige, a pattern that transforms ordinary objects into extraordinary treasures. And in that sense, the 1999 D-penny stands shoulder to shoulder with the greatest stamps, cards, and artworks in history. It may be copper-plated zinc, small and unassuming, but in the eyes of collectors, it is every bit as grand as a canvas painted by a master or a relic from centuries past. When a story as unusual as the 1999 D-penny begins to spread, it rarely stays confined to the world of numismatics. The mainstream media catches wind, and suddenly, what was once a quiet topic among coin collectors explodes into a cultural conversation. News anchors present the story with awe in their voices, local reporters film segments where they pour out jars of coins on a table, and headlines proclaim that a penny could be worth millions. That kind of coverage has a powerful effect. It reaches people who might never have thought about coins before, and it plants a seed of curiosity. Maybe they check the coins in their pocket. Maybe they tell a friend. Maybe they go online to search for more information. The story snowballs, and with each retelling, the legend of the 1999 D cent grows larger. The internet has been especially important in fueling this legend. On forums, social media pages, and video platforms, countless posts and videos spread the word. Some are carefully researched, others are speculative or exaggerated, but the common theme is fascination with the idea that a 1-cent coin could hold unimaginable value. The speed at which information spreads online means that stories of rare coins can reach millions overnight. A single viral video showcasing a valuable penny found in change can inspire thousands of viewers to start checking their own coins. For the 1999 D, this effect has been multiplied many times over, until it has become a kind of modern folklore, a tale of hidden treasure waiting in plain sight. Pop culture has also played its role. Pennies are already part of American cultural identity. Phrases like, "A penny for your thoughts, pennies from heaven," and "lucky penny," are woven into everyday language. So when one penny becomes worth over $20 million, it ties directly into those cultural associations. It becomes the ultimate lucky penny, a real-world symbol of fortune beyond imagination. Even people who know nothing about coins understand the appeal of a lucky penny, and that makes the story easy to connect with. The hype has created some curious side effects. Coin shops and pawn shops report an increase in people bringing in jars of pennies, hoping to strike gold. Online marketplaces see listings for ordinary 1999 D cents at inflated prices, posted by sellers hoping to ride the wave of excitement. Some people misunderstand the story, thinking that every 1999 D penny is automatically worth millions, when in reality only the rarest, highest grade examples command such sums. This confusion fuels debate and discussion, and while experts sometimes roll their eyes at the exaggeration, they also acknowledge that it brings fresh attention to the hobby. Every wave of media hype brings new collectors into the fold, and some of them stay, deepening their interest in coins and growing the community. Another interesting layer is how myths and rumors develop around coins like the 1999 D cent online. You'll find claims that every coin from that year is special, or that hidden varieties exist, or that secret mint errors make certain pieces valuable. While not all of these claims are accurate, they add to the mystique, making the coin feel even more mysterious and alluring. Human beings are drawn to mysteries, to the idea that secrets are waiting to be discovered, and the 1999 D penny has become a perfect canvas for that impulse. Even misinformation, in its own way, contributes to the coin's legend. The role of storytelling cannot be underestimated. Auction houses know this, which is why their descriptions of rare coins often emphasize not just the technical details but also the narrative. They tell you about the year, the context, the minting process, and the journey of the coin from obscurity to fame. They frame it as a piece of history, a survivor against the odds, a miracle of preservation. The 1999 cent benefits enormously from this kind of framing, because it is a coin people feel they already know. Everyone has seen a Lincoln cent. So when they learn that one of those familiar coins has reached a value of over $20 million, the contrast is striking. It makes the story irresistible, and the media seizes on it again and again. What we are seeing, in essence, is the transformation of a coin into a cultural symbol. The 1999 penny is no longer just a piece of currency. It is a representation of possibility, of luck, of the extraordinary hidden within the ordinary. It is used in conversations as an example of unexpected fortune, much like a winning lottery ticket or a priceless painting found in an attic. In this way, the coin has transcended the world of collecting and entered the realm of modern legend. People may never see one, may never own one, but they know the story, and they pass it along. And here is the most fascinating part: legends like this never really fade. Once a coin captures the public imagination, it stays there. Even if prices fluctuate, even if debate continues over its true rarity, the myth endures. Just as the stories of buried pirate treasure or lost gold mines continue to circulate centuries after the fact, so too will the story of the 1999 Lincoln cent live on. It is not just a coin anymore, it is a tale of discovery, value, and possibility that belongs to everyone who has ever dreamed of finding treasure. One of the most surprising things about the story of the 1999 Lincoln cent is how it has found its way into classrooms, dinner table conversations, and even financial planning discussions. Teachers, for instance, have discovered that nothing captures the attention of a group of students quite like the idea that a penny could be worth over $20 million. It instantly sparks curiosity, because students who might otherwise tune out when hearing about history or economics suddenly lean forward, eager to understand how something so ordinary could become so extraordinary. In that moment, the penny becomes a teaching tool, a way of showing that value is not always obvious, that rarity and condition matter, and that history has a direct connection to the objects in our hands. Imagine a teacher holding up a simple coin in front of a class and asking, "What if I told you this could be worth more than a mansion?" Instantly, students want to know why, how, and what makes it possible. That opens the door to discussions about the U.S. Mint, about Abraham Lincoln's legacy, about the transition from copper to copper-plated zinc in 1982, about the Denver Mint's role in American coinage, and about the grading system that determines whether a coin is worth 1 cent or a fortune. Suddenly, a history lesson that might have felt dry becomes alive, relevant, and full of wonder. The 1999 penny acts as a spark, igniting curiosity that can lead students to explore not just coins but history, economics, and even art. Parents, too, often use the story as a way to teach children about patience, persistence, and paying attention to details. A child who hears that a penny might be worth millions begins to look more closely at coins, noticing the dates, the mint marks, the tiny differences between one example and another. That kind of attention to detail is a skill that applies far beyond coins. It trains the eye and the mind to look carefully at the world, to notice what others overlook, to understand that small things can make a big difference. Parents tell their children that while finding a multimillion-dollar penny is rare, the habit of careful observation can help them in school, in work, and in life. In this way, the 1999 penny becomes more than just a coin. It becomes a lesson in mindfulness and diligence. Financial advisors and educators sometimes bring up the 1999 penny when talking about investing and the concept of value. They point out that just as most pennies are worth only 1 cent, most investments perform in predictable, modest ways. But once in a while, something unexpected becomes a star performer, multiplying in value beyond anyone's imagination. The lesson is not to gamble recklessly but to understand that value can come from patience, research, and timing. The penny also demonstrates the principle of supply and demand in a way that is instantly understandable. Billions of 1999 pennies exist, but only a handful are flawless enough to command record prices. The rarity at the top end creates immense demand, which in turn drives value. Explaining supply and demand through abstract graphs can be difficult, but explaining it through the story of a penny that went from 1 cent to over 20 million makes it crystal clear. Another educational angle is the way the 1999 penny highlights the importance of preservation. Collectors know that condition is everything, that a tiny scratch can make the difference between a fortune and pocket change. Teachers use this to show students how care and respect for objects matter. If a coin can lose millions in value because of a single blemish, then it becomes easier to understand why museums protect artifacts so carefully, why conservation is important, and why we should respect the things we own. The penny becomes a bridge to bigger ideas about history, stewardship, and responsibility. The story also fits perfectly into discussions about probability and statistics. Mathematically speaking, the odds of finding a perfect 1999 cent in circulation are astronomically low. Teachers can use this fact to help students understand concepts like rarity, chance, and statistical likelihood. When students hear that billions of coins were minted, but only a handful have been graded at the highest levels, they immediately grasp the difference between common and rare in a tangible way. It makes math real, because the numbers are tied to something they can actually hold in their hands. In family settings, the penny often becomes part of storytelling. Parents and grandparents use it to remind younger generations that the world is full of surprises, that fortune sometimes hides in unexpected places. It becomes a metaphor for keeping your eyes open, for not dismissing the small or the ordinary, because greatness can sometimes be disguised in the simplest forms. That kind of lesson, wrapped in a story about a coin, tends to stick with children far longer than abstract advice would. They may not remember every detail about the mint or the grading scale, but they will remember that once, a penny was worth millions, and that will remind them to look closer, think deeper, and never underestimate the ordinary. Even museums and historical societies have embraced the story. Exhibits featuring Lincoln cents often highlight the 1999 as a modern legend, using it as a hook to draw visitors in. Once people are intrigued by the possibility of a penny worth millions, they are more open to learning about the broader history of coinage, the artistry of design, and the role coins have played in shaping economies and cultures. The penny becomes a doorway into deeper appreciation of history, serving not just as a collectible but as a teaching tool for the wider public. Perhaps the most enduring educational lesson of all is the reminder that value is not always about what something seems to be on the surface. A penny is small, common, easily overlooked. But in the right circumstances, it becomes priceless. That lesson applies far beyond coins. It applies to people, to opportunities, to ideas. The 1999 cent teaches us that hidden potential is everywhere, that what appears ordinary can in fact be extraordinary, if only we are willing to look closely enough. That is a lesson worth more than $20 million, because it shapes the way we see the world. The story of the 1999 Lincoln cent is more than the story of a coin. It is the story of possibility, the story of chance, and the story of how meaning is created when ordinary things are lifted into extraordinary status. On the surface, it is just a 1-cent coin minted in Denver, struck by the billions, and passed through countless hands without a second thought. But beneath that simplicity lies the truth that even the smallest objects can hold immense stories, and even the most ordinary beginnings can end in unimaginable worth. That is why this penny matters, and why its tale continues to spread far beyond the circle of collectors and into the imagination of people around the world. It is easy to think of the 1999 penny as nothing more than metal, a thin disc of copper-plated zinc, carrying the familiar profile of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. It weighs just 2.5 grams, measures 19 millimeters in diameter, and could pass through a coin slot or roll down a sidewalk without attracting attention. Yet when rarity, condition, and human fascination combine, it transcends its physical properties and becomes something else entirely. It becomes a symbol of luck, a talisman of possibility, a piece of history transformed into treasure. And in that transformation, it mirrors the way people themselves sometimes rise from humble beginnings to extraordinary heights. This is why the story resonates so deeply. Everyone understands the appeal of hidden treasure. Everyone has dreamed of stumbling across something overlooked, something forgotten, something that turns out to be worth a fortune. The 1999 D penny embodies that dream. It tells us that treasure does not always lie buried in distant caves or locked in ancient chests. Sometimes, treasure hides in the palm of your hand, disguised as something ordinary, waiting only for the right pair of eyes to recognize it. That is the magic of this coin, not just its rarity or its value, but the way it speaks to a universal human longing. For some, it represents luck, the idea that fortune can strike when you least expect it. For others, it represents perseverance, the reward for years of patience and careful searching. For collectors, it represents the pinnacle of the hobby, a reminder that discipline, knowledge, and passion can uncover greatness. And for those who hear the story from afar, it represents possibility itself, the thrilling reminder that the world is full of surprises, and that the line between ordinary and extraordinary is thinner than it seems. When we think of this penny selling for over $20 million, the number itself is staggering. But the value is not just in the coin. The value is in what the coin represents. It is in the conversations it inspires, the lessons it teaches, the dreams it awakens, and the curiosity it stirs. Its market price is just one measure. Its cultural price, its symbolic price, is far greater. It reminds us to look closer, to notice the details, to treasure the small things, because sometimes the smallest things carry the greatest meaning, and so, the 1999 D Lincoln cent stands as a legend. A coin that began as 1 cent, struck among billions, carried in pockets, rolled in change drawers, perhaps overlooked countless times. Yet through the convergence of chance, rarity, and recognition, it became one of the most famous coins in modern history. It proves that value is not fixed, that meaning is not always visible, and that sometimes, against all odds, the smallest coin can carry the biggest story. As we reach the end of this journey, one thought remains. Somewhere out there, in the hands of a collector, in the vault of a museum, or perhaps still hidden in a forgotten box of coins, sits the 1999 D penny that changed everything. It is a piece of metal, yes, but also a piece of magic. A reminder that treasure is real, that legends can be true, and that fortune sometimes hides in plain sight. And that is why the story of the 1999 D cent will never end. Because as long as people dream of discovery, as long as we believe that the ordinary can hold the extraordinary, this penny will continue to shine as one of the greatest symbols of possibility in our time.